41-7, the final score as the Cowboys have all their momentum that they built over the last 5 games come crashing down in Week 17 at Lincoln Financial Field. The Eagles outscore the Cowboys 75-17 in 2 games over the course of the 2024 regular season. Welcome into the First Word, presented by Dr. Pepper. We've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. Gentlemen, we've been around this for a while. We've been doing this show since 2020. That was a rough year in its own right, but it's hard to remember a game like this where everything went wrong for you. Had a chance early. You give up the pick 6. You showed some fight on your second offensive drive. Put together a 12-play scoring drive. You go down. You tie it up at 7. And then after that, 34 unanswered from Philadelphia. Your thoughts, Barry?
Yeah, this was a tough one for the Dallas Cowboys. And, if I'm being honest with you, Cal, I believe that this team just got outmatched overall. When we talk about it in all 3 phases of this game, defensively, offensively, we talked about the trenches, those guys having to show up, and those guys having to be more physical than the Philadelphia Eagles. But it was the exact opposite. When you look at it early on, they were able to contain Saquon Barkley for the most part in that first quarter, but as the game went on, we talked about it in the pregame, it's going to have to be a 4-quarter battle. But as the game went on, Saquon just he enforced his will on it, and he continued to just pile on this defense to where they couldn't stop him. They couldn't stop a nosebleed out there when it came to Saquon Barkley. And offensively, they got away from the recipe for success. We thought this was a team that if you take care of the football offensively, defensively take the football away, you'll go out there and you win games. And they weren't able to do that this game. They turned the ball over a couple times. Cooper Rush had a bad interception early on that led to the pick 6. Yeah. And it just kind of snowballed from there. But overall, to me, this team was just outmatched by a more physical, more talented Philadelphia Eagles team. And, they showed fight early on, but as the game went on, the more talented team ended up winning.
Yeah, it was too much. You accompany that with the fact that you had 10 possessions offensively. 10 possessions offensively. 4 of those were punts. 2 of those were interceptions. 2 of those were fumbles. And you had a missed field goal in there as well. So, yeah, there's nothing you could do about that. And then you have some dude that's chasing who just had 2,000 yards rushing on the season. You didn't stand a chance once you had that first interception. It was a wrap from there.
Yeah, the talent, number one. Number 2, you got a team that's fighting for a high playoff position. So, the number on your back means a lot. The name on your back means a lot. But when you got your name on your back and a playoff chance to be high, to run for a Super Bowl, better team, better talent, more to play for.
And over the last 3 years prior to this season, of course, the Cowboys were the benefactors of games like this. They were on the opposite side where they were beating teams and putting up 40-plus points and winning on the road and winning at home like this and kind of controlling the narrative. Yeah. Not the case today. And now the question then turns to the future. You got 1 game left against Washington. Of course, there's been a little bit of a narrative of possibly extending Mike McCarthy as head coach, talking about his future in Dallas. And I think throughout the week on Players Lounge, on Hanging with the Boys, on Talking Cowboys, all those conversations steered toward there's still 2 games left. You got to see what you have down the stretch. The only thing that could throw a wrench into it is a performance like we saw today at 41-7. Is there any sort of shift in that mentality of how you're evaluating this team, the players, and the coaching staff at the same time going into these final 2 weeks?
Well, when I look at it, I look at it as a whole. I mean, this game was bad overall, offensively, defensively, we get all that. But for the majority of this season, when you talk about Mike McCarthy and his staff, he's gotten most out of his players. I mean, I will say that. I mean, he's dealt with plenty of injuries, from losing your franchise quarterback to your best defensive player being out multiple weeks, Tank Lawrence being out multiple weeks. You didn't have that secondary altogether, and yet this team came out and fought week in and week out. So to me, when you look at the coaching staff, you got to evaluate everything. And with Mike McCarthy, he gets the most out of his players out there. And to me, that holds big time weight because the players haven't given up on him either. They're going out there. This season could have been done weeks ago when Dak Prescott got hurt or when they lost that game to Cincinnati. But they continued to fight for their coach, and to me, that shows a lot.
It shows a lot. These guys went out and fought, just like you said. Obviously, today they got their butts kicked. That's just plain and simple. But they showed a lot of fight last week. You talk about Coach McCarthy and what he's been able to do with his team, even getting them remotely close to being 500, right, this year. Is one heck of a journey for him. You're missing Dak Prescott. You're missing CeeDee Lamb. You're missing, Trayvon. You're missing all your big dogs, right? All your big contract guys, they're all out. Mike is the only one that's really standing there waiting on his big boy check. But even amongst that, while people are looking at the head coaching position, I really want everybody to go pay attention to the position coaches. Start looking at these position coaches. It's something that gets looked over all the time, and it needs more attention. Head coach gets all the credit; they get all the turmoil. But what about these position coaches? We talk a lot about Lunda Wells and what he's done with their tight end position and how everybody that comes in that room contributes. Let's look at all the other positions as well, right? Yeah. We know, Al Harris does a heck of a job in the DB room, but look at every other position. Are there other guys, low draft picks, undrafted guys, are those guys developing and becoming contributors, or are we just rotating through guys and hoping that somebody is going to stick? You really got to pay attention to that. Don't just look at McCarthy. Look at the smaller picture as well.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, you Mr. Jones, Stephen Jones said we draft them, we develop them, and we pay them. Okay, you know, drafted some guys due to injury or whatever. You have developed some guys this year. Look at the coaches that are doing this development. And you know what? Sign some of these guys back. They got one more week. It ain't about McCarthy just yet. His day will come. But right about now, you got one more game to watch your players and get a proper evaluation on them.
And all three of you guys have been around it before. You've been through head coaching changes. You've been through rebuilds from a franchise standpoint. So with all this being said, there's still a lot of talent on this roster when healthy. Oh, yeah. There's still a lot of talent there. Is it really the right time for a rebuild? That will be the decision made by the front office. I tend to side with you guys in the fact that you've seen fight, you've seen development. You just got to get more efficient with those things along the way and possibly get healthier as well throughout the next few years. Now, kind of going into that final week, like we said, there's a way to evaluate with players here going up against Washington. You beat them the first time around. They're still fighting for playoff seeding as well, no matter what happens today. Of course, they lost the division. Philadelphia wraps that up with the win. But they've still got a chance to fight for their seeding in the NFC. What do you expect out of this Cowboys team and another challenge at home wrapping up the season next week?
Well, knowing Mike McCarthy, knowing his coaching staff like we just talked about, you know, I can see this team going out there and showing that fight once again. You know, I don't vision seeing a beating like they had today against Philadelphia Eagles going against the Washington Commanders out there. I envision this team going out there, continuing to fight, and at least giving themselves a chance to go out there and win the ball game. This game, they were just outmatched. Yeah. I mean, just simple as that. They were outmatched in all three phases. But going forward, I will see, or I want to see this team continue to fight like they have the entire season.
You got a bunch of guys that are individuals that are playing on a team, collectively as a team. These guys are playing for themselves. Outside of playing for the star and all that stuff, I get it. You're playing for yourself, and this is your resume. And what you do on film, whether you get blown out like you did today or whether you have a tight game and you go out and win, it doesn't matter. They're still going to go back and look at the film and say, what did you do? What type of player were in these situations? How productive were you on your assignments, regardless of what else was going on in regards to the team? You still got to take care of your business. So, with that being said, I hear you, Barry. They need to go out there and they need to compete, if nothing else, for your own job, because a lot of jobs are on the line. Especially a lot of guys on this team that are not going to be restricted free agents next year.
I've always believed this right here. I've been on them 1 and 15s. I've been on them 3 and 13s. And me and Kevin Martin, a 4th-round pick out of Boston, we used to sit on the plane coming back sometime after those bad losses. Did you check the box? And what I mean by that is when the coach would say Nate Newton, he can check the box. When he said Kevin Martin, can he check the box? If they can't check the box, you'll be doing it somewhere else.
Yeah, that's impressive and a great mentality moving forward. Now, I've got to tease a little bit to game night and OT because I know a lot of Cowboys fans are frustrated out there. There's still a lot to look forward to, and we're going to hear from Mike McCarthy. We're going to hear from the offense, from the defense, and instant locker room reaction following the loss. Plus, we will answer the question, will you see Trey Lance in Week 18 of the NFL season? We'll talk about that on Cowboys Game Night. Cowboys OT coming up here in just a little bit. We'll leave you with the final stats presented by Miller Lite. 41-7. Philadelphia wins the NFC East, and they do so in emphatic fashion, running all over the Cowboys at Lincoln Financial Field, sweeping Dallas in 2024 and winning the division title in the process. We've got